Hey guys, tonight we slip into sandals older than memory, stepping onto sun-warmed stone while the Nabataean sky blushes awake over Petra's carved cliffs. You're groggy, you've got sand in your eyelashes, and not a clue what you're doing in a 1st century BCE desert market. But here you are blinking in the pale light, squinting at the caravan arch just as it creaks open. Camels groan like disgruntled coworkers at dawn, their riders pulling shawls tighter and muttering in a half-dozen dialects. The gates don't exactly swing. They sort of shrug open, as if even the architecture needs coffee. And you shuffle forward, brushing shoulders with a woman whose entire business fits in a sack of rose-scented salt, and a smile you don't trust yet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. Are you curled up in bed or pretending to work while sneakily listening with earbuds in? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pause under the arch. The air still smells sleepy, like cooling sand and clay damp from desert dew. But beneath that, there's the whiff of something spice. Burnt grain, probably both. Early vendors are already waving incense burners to drive away flies and maybe, just maybe, tempt in customers. There's something oddly hopeful about the morning at a Nabataean market. Not just commerce, anticipation. Everyone's secretly wondering if today will be the day someone from Alexandria pays full price without complaining. You rub your eyes and peer around. Traders from the Red Sea ports are tying off camels with jangly bronze tack. Some are already rearranging their wares so the good stuff dyed textiles. Jars of perfumed oil, a suspiciously shiny bronze dagger, catches the early light. Others, less ambitious, are still half asleep on woven mats, heads tilted like wilted flowers in the sun. The stalls themselves are mismatched. Some are simple blankets on sand. Others boast pop-up wooden frames with canvas canopies, dyed in stripes likely Roman influence. Since Nabataeans didn't traditionally fuss over uniformity, a Roman merchant grunts nearby as he lays out tiny glass vessels that glitter blue and green. One catches the sun and flashes directly into your eyes. You're now blind in one spot, probably forever. Great. Meanwhile, a goat just wandered through, dragging a bell and ignoring everyone like royalty. A small boy in an oversized tunic chases after it, shouting something about Auntie's wedding stew. You wisely step aside. This early in the day, the market feels less like a roar and more like a series of overlapping yawns. Merchants greet each other with gestures as lazy as drifting palm fronds. A man balancing a basket of dried figs on his head murmurs something that could be good morning or don't step on my shadow. You nod anyway, just in case. You pass a woman crushing dried mint leaves with a stone pestle, eyes focused, hands methodical. Her stall isn't open yet, but the aroma tells you this will be the tea stop by noon. She hums a melody you don't recognize, and a tiny cat crawls out from under a crate to curl up beside her. Even the animals here seem unbothered by the business of buying and selling. But don't be fooled by the calm. Petra was a trade hub, remembers Mac, in the middle of the incense routes, connecting Arabia to the Mediterranean. Every one of these people has a goal: to sell, to buy, to impress, or to steal something without being noticed. You check your pouch, just to be safe. Still there for now. And yet, it's all so casual. No opening ceremonies. No ringing bell. Just the slow, inevitable swelling of life as stall after stall sets up, with vendors announcing themselves in increasing volume. It's a little like a desert orchestra tuning up, chords thumping, coins clinking, hooves dragging over sand. You drift toward the edge of the plaza, where the first full beam of sun creeps between rock walls carved with worn Nabataean script. The sandstone glows pinkish orange, like someone smeared it with peach jam. A merchant unfurls a blanket beneath this spotlight and starts placing out painted pottery. One jug has a face scratched into it, oddly split-looking. You stare too long, and the vendor raises one eyebrow, as if to say, interested, or just nosy. You back away. Historians still argue whether this part of the market under the carved cliff walls was reserved for high-status traders or just the early birds. Some think Nabataean social rank showed in where your stall went. Others think it was more like first come, first stake your corner. Either way, you're definitely intruding. Someone offers you a roasted chickpea from a little palm leaf cone. You take one, it's ... fine, hot, slightly singed. Possibly yesterday's. But it warms your fingers. And the vendor nods like you've just agreed to something legally binding. Every few feet, you hear snatches of multiple languages. Aramaic, Greek, Arabic dialects. Even Latin from a particularly flustered-looking man trying to understand a price involving both goats and jars. Petra isn't just a Nabataean city, it's a melting pot clinking with coin, caravan bells, and misunderstandings. And of course, there's the sandstone underfoot, always patient, smooth in places, jagged in others. You can feel it in your calves already, the slight unevenness of every step. Nabataean engineers knew how to manage water in the desert, but paving, that was optional. So here you are, smack in the middle of it. Early morning in a Nabataean market. You've dodged a goat, tasted a chickpea, lost a staring contest with pottery, and narrowly avoided becoming the owner of a possibly haunted incense jar. And the day is just beginning. You don't get far before a new wave of noise announces the next act of this market's daily drama. The caravans have arrived. Not in neat rows or elegant procession, of course. No, this is more like a traffic jam with fur and attitude. The gates widen, and in shuffle the camels, dozens of them groaning, chewing, and clearly not paid enough for this job. Behind them come their drivers, cloaked in dust and pride, dragging carts, yelling instructions, and occasionally whistling tunes that sound like they were invented 5 seconds ago. You press yourself against the smooth stone wall as a towering camel lumbers past you, its mouth full of that dried okra. It looks smug about it. Traders from all corners of the empire stagger in, after weeks of journeying, some from the Arabian Peninsula, others from Roman Egypt, and more than a few from Nabataean towns farther inland. They speak in worn-out voices, calling out greetings in a tongue half formal, half friendly. The sandstone valley echoes back their exhaustion. The unloading begins with the slow efficiency of people who've done this 1,000 times. Wooden crates are hoisted off camelbacks. Ropes are unwound, and wide straw baskets are passed down in a chain of arms. Inside are goods wrapped in linen, stored in clay, or just loosely piled ready to be arranged in glorious chaos across the stalls. You watch a man unroll bolts of indigo-dyed linen, while his apprentice tries and fails to keep the edge from touching the muddy ground. Nearby, a woman gently lifts ceramic vessels from a padded crate, whispering to each as if they might get offended. Her wares sparkle faintly, a Roman import, maybe, or a carefully disguised local imitation. Historians still argue whether Nabataeans prioritized foreign goods for status, or just because they liked shiny things. Not everything is beautiful, of course. You pass by one stall, where a sack of pickled fish leaks ominously onto the sandstone. The vendor shrugs at your disgusted face and says, "Smells like wealth where I come from." You nod solemnly, unwilling to challenge that logic. A donkey suddenly brays with operatic drama. It's pulling a rickety cart filled with bundles of cinnamon bark, its hooves skittering slightly on the cobblestones. The driver leaps down and starts yelling not at the donkey, but at another merchant who apparently promised him a place next to the fig vendor, not the goat man. You inch away. Market real estate, it seems, is a hot topic. It's not just imported goods that arrive this way. You notice baskets of dried dates, clearly local, and jars of salt, possibly from the Dead Sea, regional, floated with as much reverence as the fine silks. There's even a crate labeled in black Nabataean script that simply reads, "Rocks very nice." You peek inside. Yep, just rocks. Very nice. Over at the spice corner, someone pops the lid off a clay jar of turmeric and immediately sneezes themselves into a new religion. You catch a whiff, then another, then realize half the air here is scented with some combination of coriander, saffron, and crushed myrrh. It's like wandering through a very enthusiastic apothecary who believes in maximum drama. And of course, the camels, oh, the camels. Now that they're unburdened, they're free to express their full personalities. One tries to bite its owner's sash. Another sits down directly in the path of 3 other traders and refuses to move. You watch. A young girl attempt to bribe her camel with a fig. It eats the fig, then her headscarf. She doesn't seem surprised. The traders themselves are no less colorful. Some wear embroidered tunics stitched with tiny seashell patterns. Others are bare-chested, covered in dust, and decorated with necklaces made from coins, bone, or beads. A man with impossibly white teeth and a voice like honey tries to sell you a Roman helmet, only slightly cursed. You decline, barely. He winks. What's fascinating is how practiced it all feels. No maps, no schedules, no bureaucracy in sight, just centuries of instinct. Goods move from camel to stall in an elegant, if chaotic, system. The market absorbs it all like a breathing creature. Expanding, pulsing, never quite still. The sun climbs. Shadows sharpen. Sandals scuff. And with each new merchant who enters, the air thickens not with dust, but with anticipation. Soon the hagglers will descend, the gossips will whisper, the musicians will test their strings. But for now, it's still the warm-up act. You spot one trader carefully tucking away a tiny carved figure of Alyuza, goddess of protection. He kisses his fingers, presses them to the idol, and slips it under his cloth bundles. You wonder, how many silent prayers are stitched into this market's opening hours, whispered into sand, folded into silks, hidden in fig crates. And somewhere near the spice rows, a parrot screeches something in broken Greek. Everyone pretends not to hear it. especially the man selling totally legitimate peacock feathers out of a wooden chest at the edge of the plaza. An old woman with a face like cracked leather opens a pouch and releases a cloud of crushed lavender into the air. She says nothing, just lets it drift on the wind, then starts arranging painted stones into a triangle around her baskets. No one bothers her. You get the sense she's been here longer than the market itself. It's tempting to just stand and watch, to be part of the texture, the rhythm, the peculiar heartbeat of this ancient place. You lean against a wall carved with Nabataean graffiti, something about camels. You assume and let the tide of morning pull you along. The market's not fully awake yet, but it's no longer sleepy either. It's flexing its limbs, stretching its voice, unrolling its secrets one crate at a time, and you, wide-eyed outsider that you are here for all of it. Somewhere between the camel standoff and a haggling match over dyed wool. Your stomach reminds you it's still 9 a.m. and you haven't eaten anything except that one suspicious chickpea. Luckily, the Nabataean market is a treasure chest of smells and most of them lead to food. You follow your nose through a curl of perfumed smoke, past a brazier where a man roasts barley until it snaps like tiny pebbles. He scoops a hot handful into a palm leaf pouch, throws in a few drops of fig syrup, and hands it off to a waiting customer without a word. You drift closer. The smell is something between nutty and toasty, like cereal made by someone who once set their house on fire, but made peace with it. To the left, a woman stirs a bubbling pot over a clay stove. She hums a tune as she tosses in chopped dates, honey, and a hint of cardamom. It's a breakfast porridge, more or less. She gestures at you with a wooden ladle. Try. You nod. One taste, and you're hooked. Sweet, thick, and mildly crunchy, from roasted lentils. It's like oatmeal that trained in the desert for 10 years. Right next to her is a stall that seems to exist solely to fry things. Flatbreads puff and hiss in shallow oil, then emerge golden, steaming, and ready to be dusted with powdered herbs. Someone ahead of you orders one with a smear of date paste and a crumble of salty cheese. You immediately want 5. You get 1. Because you're not that reckless. Yet there's a lot of heat in the air, not just the temperature, but actual heat from all the cook fires and clay stoves. Vendors fan flames under copper kettles, boiling water for herbal infusions. You spot bundles of dried mint, sage, and something someone claims is desert thyme, which looks suspiciously like tumbleweed but smells like heaven. A man sells small cups of spiced coffee, thick as syrup, bitter as betrayal, and served in tiny ceramic cups with no handles. You try one. Your tongue regrets it immediately, but your brain claps like an enthusiastic librarian. The kick is impressive. It's easy to forget that this isn't just a food court. It's a place where cuisine and trade merge. You overhear one merchant insisting that his honey is harvested from bees who only kiss palm flowers. His neighbor scoffs and says, "Mine come from bees who've seen things." You buy from both, because really, why not? There's also the man roasting meat over open colza mystery meat, vaguely bird-shaped, and alarmingly crunchy. It smells fantastic, but when you ask what it is, he just says desert fowl and grins. You take a bite. It's chewy, vaguely gamey, possibly owl. You don't ask again. Historians still argue whether the Nabataeans had a defined culinary style or simply improvised with whatever the caravans brought in. Some say their meals were basic dates, bread, goat cheese. Others point to evidence of elaborate dishes flavored with rare spices. But no one disputes that they loved flavor. Nabataean palates, it seems, were more adventurous than expected. And it wasn't just about taste. Many of the ingredients doubled as medicine. That porridge, with cardamom, good for digestion. The mint tea calms the nerves. Even the fried dough allegedly cures wind of the soul, whatever that means. You hope that's not just an ancient euphemism for indigestion. The perfumed smoke you first walked through, that's not just ambience from burning a resin used both to ward off flies and purify the air. One vendor adds cinnamon to his blend, another tosses in dried orange peel. You pass through the haze and emerge smelling like a scented scroll. A donkey sneezes near you, startling a cat into leaping onto a table where someone's mid-lickling. The cat dips a paw into a jar of vinegar-soaked garlic and looks offended. No one moves. This is clearly a daily ritual. Further down, a squat man sits behind a pyramid of dried fruits, dates, apricots, figs, and raisins, all sun-cured and stacked with architectural precision. He watches you closely as you approach. "You have sweet teeth," he says. It's not a question. You accept a sample. The fig practically melts. You buy a handful and immediately realize you've no pockets, so you carry them like treasure. Someone hawks water from the real Petra spring in decorated jugs. Another offers goat milk stirred with crushed almonds. And in the corner, an old woman sells dried rose petals by the pinch, whispering that they'll help you dream of someone else's husband. You buy 2 pinches and walk away quickly. Early in the day, the food stalls are at their most generous. Cooks still have fuel. Bread hasn't yet gone stale. Oil is fresh, and so are tempers. In a few hours, the heat will sharpen, the flies will return, and everyone will start charging a little extra, just because they're tired. You pause near a row of clay ovens set into the market's outer wall. Young boys are stuffing in balls of dough and pulling out golden puffs almost too hot to touch. They slap them flat, add herbs or cheese, and pass them to the front. There's no real line, just a shifting mass of hungry hands and impatient uncles. And still, it's not chaotic. Not exactly. There's rhythm. The firewood gets respect. The chickpea grinder never stops turning. A girl with an apron stitched from 3 different fabrics passes around a copper tray of sesame sweets, making her rounds like a tiny diplomat of sugar. You find a flat stone near a date cellar and sit finally. You unwrap a parcel of food, let the steam waft up, and take a long, slow bite. Around you, the market breathes. The camels snort. The coffee bubbles. The air shifts with fragrance. And you, somehow, belong here now. You're not a visitor. You're a quiet thread in this woven mess of hunger, trade, and laughter. And as the sun begins to lift higher, and the shade lines crawl away from the cliff wall, you lick honey from your fingers and think, not bad for a breakfast you found. By following smoke, your fingers are still sticky with date syrup as you wander into the part of the market where conversation sharpens, where coins don't move without a performance, and prices are more of a dance than a number. Welcome to the glorious Baffling world of Nabataean bartering. You pause beside a stall where a pair of men are deep in haggling. One wears a sun-faded cloak and gestures so wildly you half expect him to take flight. The other squints at him, arms crossed, unmoved. They're arguing over a copper mirror that's been polished to a suspiciously radiant shine. It was polished with lion breath. The seller insists, it reflects your future. The buyer scoffs, it reflects my bald spot. And so it goes. In the Nabataean market, fixed prices are more myth than policy. Haggling isn't just expected, it's practically an art form. You try to watch discreetly, but it's impossible not to be swept up in the performance. Voices rise and fall like a dramatic play. Arms wave, eyes roll, and everyone acts personally wounded by every counter-offer. You hover near a textile vendor next. He holds up a vibrant crimson scarf and declares, woven from threads blessed under a full moon. The buyer, a woman with impressive eyebrow control, replies, blessed by who? A drunk goat. He gasps in offense, clutches the scarf to his chest, and lowers the price by half. You blink. Apparently, sarcasm is a legitimate negotiation strategy. Not all bartering is verbal, though. Some customers communicate with glances, sighs, and one extremely dramatic head tilt. You see a man simply raise his eyebrows 3 times at a jug of olive oil. The vendor sighs, nods, and removes a coin from the price tag. No words exchanged. Just pure market telepathy. Nearby, a young merchant sharpens a stylus as he lays out scrolls for sale, legal contracts, fragments of poetry, and what looks suspiciously like a love letter someone forgot to untend. You pick one up and pretend to read it. The vendor leans over and says, that one's about a goat who ran away. It's tragic. 10 bronze if you cry. You put it back. Historians still argue whether Nabataeans standardized weights and measures across the empire. Some archaeological evidence suggests official weightstones were used. Others believe local markets operated on trust and experience plus the occasional divine threat scrawled on a receipt. Either way, today everything here seems to follow a rulebook nobody wrote down. At one corner of the plaza, a particularly pushy vendor has laid out amulets carved from bone, soapstone, and something green that glows faintly in the sun. Good for curses or curing curses. He shouts. You're not sure which is worse. A wide-eyed customer whispers, will this protect me from Roman tax agents? The seller grins. Only if you wear it everywhere. That's not reassuring. You turn a corner and nearly collide with a tall, solemn-faced woman selling dyed fabrics from the Levant. She doesn't speak. Instead, she holds up swatches of color and lets you guess what they're worth. You point at one, a deep indigo. She shakes her head slowly, as if you've just insulted her family. You point at another, faded peach. She considers it, nods once, and drops it in your hands. Payment. You're expected to leave what you think is fair in the bowl beside her. You leave a few bronze coins and a crumb of rose candy from earlier. She doesn't blink. You're fairly certain you've just been weighed, measured, and tolerated. Not every exchange goes smoothly. You witness a vendor scream in Aramaic at a man who tried to palm off a counterfeit coin. The crowd laughs, someone tosses a date pit, and the accused scurries off muttering. The vendor shakes his head, turns to you, and says, tourists. You don't correct him. You find yourself drawn to a row of pottery stalls next. Each piece is hand-molded, sun-dried, and painted with geometric patterns or stylized animals. A tiny jug catches your aja bird painted with human feet. You ask the vendor what it is. He shrugs. Nightbird, scares dreams away, or maybe invites them in. Comforting, you pick it up, flip it, and look for a price. He holds out for fingers. You hold up 3. He sighs and holds up 3. And 1 eyebrow. You both laugh. Deal. You walk away with a slightly lopsided nightbird jug, feeling like you just passed some kind of ancient market initiation. And then, of course, there's the language barrier. You pass to men arguing in Greek, neither of whom seems fluent. They eventually resort to pantomime. One imitates a fish, the other slaps a sandal. Somehow, a sale happens. You're not even mad. That was incredible. Even the kids get in on the act. A barefoot boy sells slingshot stones polished smooth in riverbeds. He dumps a handful in front of you and says, 10 for 1, coinor 11. If you promise not to throw them at my sister. You laugh and nod. He grins, then chucks one at his own brother, just to make a point. And as the noise rises, the dust dances, and the sun stretches higher across the carved cliffs of Petra. You realize the market isn't just a place of trade, it's theater. Every transaction is a script. Every vendor is part actor, part artist. And every customer, including you, is expected to play along, so you do. You ask about a jar, gasp at a price, groan, offer half-act, offended, then laugh, then agree. The vendor beams. You get your jar. Everyone wins. Somewhere, someone plays a reed flute badly. A camel interrupts with a dramatic snort. A coin drops. A baby cries. 2 women argue about whether salt can actually repel demons. And through it all, the market pulses. Not just with goods, but with stories, arguments, jokes, and the quiet, undeniable joy of a deal well made. After all that haggling and food snacking, the heat is starting to work, its magic stretching, distorting, and pulling at the edges of your awareness. The market is still buzzing, but now there's an undercurrent of laziness, one of those collective, unspoken agreements that the day is getting too warm for anything urgent. The real work happens in the early hours. Now, it's just about keeping the rhythm going until the sun starts sinking behind the mountains. You drift toward a quieter corner, where incense hangs in a thick cloud, and the stalls seem to blur into one another. There's something about this part of the market that feels like it's existed for centuries. Like it's been here longer than the stone pillars or the imported goods. The vendors here aren't loud. They don't need to be. People come to them for very specific things, spiritual things, secret things. One vendor, an older man with a face lined by time and worry, holds up small bundles of dried herbs, each wrapped in a cloth of some kind. You step closer. He doesn't speak. Instead, he simply holds out a small bundle and waits. You look at it, confused. He gestures to the earth below, where a small symbol is carved into the ground, a crescent moon, with a jagged line through it. You don't recognize it, but you feel a strange urge to kneel and trace the shape with your fingers. The old man watches silently, then nods. You hand him a few coins. He gives you a bundle of dried juniper berries in return. No words. No negotiation. This market, it seems, has its own rhythm, one that stretches from the physical to the mystical, from tangible goods to those only ever whispered about. Historians still argue whether the Nabataeans used markets as secret meeting points for religious or political exchanges, or if their encounters were just about selling salt and spices. But as you walk away with the juniper, you wonder if there's some truth in both ideas. As you wander deeper into this quieter, more mysterious section, you notice a woman sitting alone on a blanket, beside an intricate altar to Alusa, the goddess of protection. The altar's small but detailed tiny offerings scattered at its base. A few dates, a polished stone, some incense burning in a ceramic holder. A few candles flicker in the soft wind, casting an eerie glow. You don't approach, but she sees you looking. Without a word, she lifts her hand and gestures toward the altar. It's an invitation, not to purchase, but to observe, to witness. It's strange, this silent ritual. She doesn't try to sell you anything. She doesn't even smile. Yet somehow, you feel like you've just entered an unspoken pact. There's a fleeting sense that the market is not merely a place of trade, it's a place of offerings, a marketplace of the spirit, as much as of grain. A few steps away, another vendor displays a pile of carefully carved bone amulets. They're all shaped like animals, lions, snakes, even a camel or two, but there's something unsettling about them. You can't quite pinpoint it. Maybe it's the way their eyes are etched too deeply, or the solemnity of their expression. Either way, something about the amulets feels like they've seen too much. But then you spot something else, something unexpected. A group of children, laughing and darting around the stalls, completely oblivious to the heat. One of them has a small basket filled with what looks like stones, smooth, polished, and shaped like tiny pyramids. You step closer to investigate. Magic stones, the child says, without missing a beat. Protect you from the heat. You laugh and reach for your coin pouch, half expecting to humor the child. But as you touch the basket, the stones seem to pulse lightly under your fingers, almost as if they're alive. You hesitate, unsure if it's just the desert's heat getting to you, or something stranger at work. The child smiles knowingly, as though you've just passed a test. As you walk away, the child calls after you. They only work for those who believe. You pause, glance back, and wonder if belief might be the most valuable commodity in the market. After all, further down the way, the sun has grown even fiercer, and the market begins to empty. Some traders pack up quickly, folding their stalls, while others linger, wrapping up their goods slowly, as though they know the day isn't over, but only resting for a few moments. The faint sound of music drifts from a nearby corner. Flutist has begun to play, his melody lilting and mournful. It's not the lively tune of a morning celebration. It's softer, more reflective. The kind of tune that follows a long day and invites a slow exhale of relief. You follow the sound, unsure why, but drawn to it. You find a small group gathered around the musician. The flutist himself is a middle-aged man, with a deep, thoughtful look in his eyes. His music seems to fold into the air, wrapping around you like a cool breeze. The surrounding crowd, though sparse, is spellbound. No one speaks, no one moves. The only sound is the flute, each note hanging in the air like a memory. You sit, your legs aching from the day's wanderings, and let the music fill the empty spaces left by the sun. The market hums around you, But now, it's not the bustling market you saw this morning, it's a place where the transactions fade, where the rituals of the earth and the sky seem to intertwine. The music swells gently, and you find yourself relaxing in a way you didn't know you needed. The day is winding down. The camel bells grow quieter. The children are gone, their laughter fading like echoes. The flutist plays on, his melody growing softer, slower, and as it does, the market seems to breathe a final sigh. The sun dips lower. The vendors begin packing their wares. The noise settles, and the quiet of the desert night starts to stretch across the sandstone cliffs. It's not over yet, but you can feel the shift. The market's pulse slows, and so do you. The evening breeze arrives, as if on cue, rolling down from the cliffs with a softness that feels like a secret. It's still warm, but the heat's no longer oppressive. The air smells of dust, spice, and the faintest trace of evening flowers. Whatever blooms in this arid place, it does so quietly. It's a relief after the stifling midday sun. You spot the man who sold you the amulet earlier. He's folding up his stall, but still has a few small charms laid out before him. He's less urgent now, a little more philosophical. You glance over at him. He meets your eye and gives a small, knowing nod. You don't know why, but it feels like a moment of recognition, like you've become part of the rhythm of this place nearby. A group of local women gather to drink tea. The soft clink of their cups is the only noise beside the occasional cough or shuffle of feet. Their conversation is quiet but warm, a low hum that blends perfectly with the last of the flute's notes. You find yourself listening in, almost involuntarily, catching snippets of words about family, the harvest, and the seasons that shift with the flow of the stars. You notice a young boy wandering through the market now, weaving between the fading crowds with a wicker basket slung over his shoulder. His job, you suspect, is simple but essential. Gathering up any loose bits of discarded fabric, old baskets, broken pottery, all the small detritus of the day's transactions. He moves almost unnoticed, absorbed in his task. But there's something almost meditative about the way he works, collecting the fragments of a day and carrying them away. There's a quiet dignity in it. No one seems to notice him, but he holds the market together in a way no merchant or customer ever could. The air cools as the sun's final rays slip behind the cliffs. The last of the camels make their way out of the gates, their movements slow and deliberate. Even the horses are calming, no longer in a rush to return to wherever they came from. The market feels like it's slipping into a dream now, its edge softening with the darkness. A few last-minute buyers rush in, hoping to make one last deal before night completely overtakes the stone-carved streets. You see a merchant urgently wrapping up a bundle of precious frankincense for a hurried customer, his voice hushed and quick. The transaction takes less than a minute, the exchange barely audible over the sudden silence. It's as if they've both realized they're just two people trying to get something done before the world changes on them. The young boy with the basket passes by you again, now with a full load of discarded items, bits of cloth, old coins, and scraps of paper with strange symbols on them. He walks with purpose, his shoulders slightly hunched, as if he carries not just the day's refuse, but the memory of it. You can't help but feel that, in some strange way, he's also collecting the echoes of the stories told here. the fragments of moments that may never be spoken again. The night begins to settle in more fully now. The first stars flicker into view, their light so sharp against the darkening sky. The lanterns around the market come to life with a soft, steady glow, illuminating the faces of the few remaining traders. You notice the old woman with the rose pouches, who's now packing away her goods with the calm of someone who's done this every evening for years. She looks up briefly, catching your eye. Without a word, she lifts her hand in a gentle wave. You return the gesture, and for a second, the market feels like it's folding into itself, becoming more intimate, more personal, like a family gathering. At the close of a day, the musicians have started to pack up their instruments, now laid out in quiet heaps. The flutist stands and begins walking toward the gates. You watch him for a moment, the sound of his instrument fading behind him. He's not leaving, not really. He's just blending into the shadows, his song now a part of the air. And as the market begins to clear, you realize that something about this place isn't just about the goods it sells or the people who come to buy. It's about the fleeting moments that weave together, the quiet exchanges, the subtle connections that take place when no one is paying attention. As the last few traders close their stalls, you stand in the center of the market, now almost empty, and for the first time all day, you notice how peaceful it feels. The rhythm of commerce has slowed. The energy of the crowd has dissolved into the soft murmur of the evening wind. You hear nothing now except the occasional sound of a sandal scraping the stone, the rustle of cloth, and the distant, fading song of the flute. You take a deep breath. It's hard to say whether this is the end of your journey here or the beginning of something more, something that will stay with you in the quiet hours of the night. For now, though, it's enough to simply be here. To feel the stones beneath your feet, the cool breeze against your skin, and the soft promise of the night ahead. The market has closed, but its pulse is still in the air, and somehow, you've become part of that pulse. Night truly falls. Now, as the last trace of sunset vanishes behind the jagged silhouette of Petra's cliffs, the market is nearly deserted. The lamplight casts long flickering shadows across the stone streets, illuminating the intricate carvings in the walls that most visitors miss during the frantic rush of daylight. The silence here feels different, deeper, like the city is down, settling into its own rhythm. You find a quiet corner under a carved archway, and the world narrows to just the soft glow of oil lamps and the whisper of wind through the canyon. The days buzz, the haggling, the smells, the voices. The rush of commerce has ebbed away, replaced by something almost sacred. The soft murmur of the desert night surrounds you like a blanket, and you realize how much you've been immersed in the pulse of this place without even meaning to. It's no longer just about the goods, the trades, the market itself. It's about being here. With the weight of centuries pressing down, holding everything still, you notice the few remaining vendors walking slowly toward the exits, their footsteps muted on the stone. They move with less urgency now. The final transactions are done. The exhaustion of a long day's work seems to have turned to peace acceptance. Even the vendor who sold you the juniper bundle earlier is packing up now, carefully folding his cloth and putting his small offerings away. He gives you a nod, a soft acknowledgement that you're not just another passerby but part of the rhythm of this ancient place. You nod back, unsure what words would even fit here. In the market's fading light, you don't need to say much. You don't need to ask for more. You just exist, like everyone else in this timeless space, as the last figures disappear behind the towering sandstone walls. You realize that Petra, in all its ancient grandeur, is so much more than just a tourist spot. It's alive. It's living history. The market, too, isn't just a space for commerce. It's a meeting point, a place where past and present collide, where the flow of human interaction, of goods, stories, and culture has never truly stopped. Even as the city slumbers beneath a canopy of stars, you can feel it. The pulse of history is still here, in the quiet shadows, in the dust of the marketplace, in the footfalls of those who linger just a little longer than they should. The last few traders leave through the gate, their silhouettes becoming part of the night. You wait for a moment, letting the sound of their departure settle into the quiet. You could leave too, but something about the night here, in Petra, holds you. Perhaps it's the way the walls seem to watch over the market, even after it's closed. Maybe it's the way the air, thick with the weight of the past, invites you to pause and reflect. The stars above shine brightly now, the sky an endless canvas of distant lights, and the desert air has cooled into something refreshing. You step into the stillness, listening to the soft scrape of your sandals against the worn stone beneath your feet. As you walk slowly toward the gates, the glow from the last lanterns flickers in the distance, the market now a memory of yesterday's bustle, but still alive in the quiet whispers of the wind. You feel a shift, a sense that this place has changed something inside you. Maybe it's the awareness of how quickly the day can fade, or the realization that some things like the market don't need to be loud or rushed to be meaningful. This is what Petra was. What it still is: a place of exchange, a place of stories, a place where the pulse of life continues. Whether the traders are here or not, you pass through the gate, but you don't look back. You don't need to. The market, and everything it holds, will be there tomorrow. And somehow, you know that the rhythm of this place will be waiting for you, whenever you decide to return. The quiet of the desert night is like a soft blanket, wrapping the world in a delicate embrace. As you walk away from the market, the labyrinth of Petra's streets opens up before you, a maze of carved sandstone walls and empty passages that seem to hold stories in their silent folds. The night air is cool now, the heat of the day fading like a memory. You can feel the pulse of the city still, but it's softer, slower, almost imperceptible, as if the land itself has taken a deep breath and is settling into a calm sleep. You find a spot near the edge of the city, where the cliffside meets the open desert. There, a small gathering of Bedouin tents is visible, their fabric stretching against the winds of the evening. A faint light flickers in one of the tents, the faint smell of smoke drifting over to you. The desert, for all its emptiness, never truly feels abandoned here. It's a living landscape, one that has seen countless travelers, traders, and wanderers, all passing through, all leaving their mark in some way. As you sit on a stone, staring out into the vast emptiness of the desert, it becomes clear: Petra, in all its grandeur, isn't just about the monuments or the history etched into its walls. It's about the people who pass through, who leave. Their stories, their marks, their whispers in the wind. The market, you realize, was never just about buying and selling. It was a living, breathing reflection of the people who brought their lives into this place. The traders, the customers, the pilgrims, all of them came here, not just to exchange goods, but to exchange something deeper. Ideas, dreams, hopes, fears. The market may be gone for the night, but its energy lingers, woven into the very stones of the city, carried on the night air. As the night deepens, the desert sky stretches endlessly. Above, a blanket of stars so bright it almost hurts to look at them. The stillness is overwhelming, but not uncomfortable. The quiet is a part of the rhythm of Petra, just as much as the sound of the traders calling out in the morning, or the sound of camel hooves on the dusty ground. You look up at the stars and find yourself wondering how many people have sat in this same spot, under this same sky, and felt the same peace. How many travelers, through the centuries, have looked out over the desert and found themselves at the edge of something profound. The thoughts are fleeting, but they settle inside you, like the desert itself, steady and unshifting. There's a timelessness here, an unspoken connection between the past and present, between the earth and its people, that lingers like the scent of the spices from the market, long after the last vendor has packed up and left for the night. In this moment, you're no longer an outsider. You've become part of this place, part of its rhythm. You understand now that the market wasn't just a physical space. It was an experience, an energy shared by everyone who entered. It was a living entity, constantly changing, but always rooted in the same foundation. The exchange of goods, yes, but also the exchange of stories, of life itself. You rise from your stone, dusting off your clothes, and take a last look at the moonlit cliffs before you begin walking back toward the city. The desert stretches endlessly around you, but Petra feels close now, familiar. You've touched something here, something deeper than the walls or the market or the people. You've touched the rhythm of the land, and in doing so, you've become part of its timeless cycle. You're not in a hurry to leave. There's no rush. The desert moves at its own pace, and so do you. You feel the night settling around you, a peaceful hush, and you know that tomorrow, the market will rise again, full of life and movement, with new traders, new stories, and the same ancient energy. But for tonight, you'll rest. The stars will keep their watch. The desert will whisper its secrets, and the rhythm of Petra will continue, as it always has. And you, for a fleeting moment, are a part of it all. The soft murmur of the desert night stretches on, with only the occasional rustle of wind against the stone and the distant call of a lone bird. It's strange, isn't it? How much silence can fill the space between things, between thoughts, between moments. You walk slowly now, more as though you're being drawn rather than moving of your own accord. Petra is still like an old friend deep in sleep, content in its own timelessness. You pass by the cliffside paths, the stone walls towering above you, their intricate carvings barely visible in the moonlight. Yet they still feel alive. Even in the dark, the city has a presence, its heart beating quietly, the rhythm of centuries echoing through the rock. It's a place where time itself feels suspended, as if it's waiting for you to catch up. The desert doesn't care for hurry. The ground underfoot is soft sand, then stone, then dust again. Your footsteps leave impressions only to be erased by the breeze, as though the earth is constantly rewriting itself. You walk at your own pace, the feeling of the night pressing in on all sides. There's a certain peace in this, the kind that settles deep in your bones, the kind you don't realize you're missing until you find it. You stop for a moment, leaning against a warm stone pillar carved with symbols you don't fully understand. The soft hum of the wind around you feels like a lullaby. Petra, once bustling with the commerce and energy of the market, now seems so still, so quiet. And for a moment, it's just you and the stones, the night air, the endless stars above, the stars. There's something else here. It's as if the sky has more room to breathe in this part of the world. The constellations stretch out before you, unfamiliar but beautiful. The night sky in Petra feels like it's made of something different than the sky you know. There's a depth to it, like looking into a forgotten memory, a part of yourself you didn't know you'd lost. The scent of the desert earth is thick in the air now, mixed with the faintest trace of incense that still lingers from the market. It's a sweet, warm aroma, soft and calming. You breathe it in, letting the rhythm of the land seep into you, slowing your heart, quieting your thoughts. There's no rush. There's nothing to chase. The day's transactions are over, the market closed, but it feels as though everything here is still unfolding, even in the silence. Ahead of you, a group of Bedouin children play quietly near their camp. Their laughter is a soft thing, more like whispers than shouts, their voices blending with the desert winds. They run, they jump, they chase each other in the dark, their movements swift and fluid. There's no need for words, just the sound of their feet tapping lightly on the earth. Their joy is simple, uncomplicated, a reminder that some things in life are more precious than any treasure. The firelight from their camp flickers and dances, casting shadows across the sand. The flames glow softly, and the warmth seems to reach you, like an invitation to join, to rest, to share in the stillness of the night. You hesitate, but only for a moment, before walking toward the fire. The eldest of the children, a girl perhaps 12 or 13, notices you first. She stops, her dark eyes meeting yours in the quiet flicker of the firelight. There's no surprise in her gaze, no question. She simply watches for a moment, before offering you a small, almost imperceptible smile. It's a silent welcome, the kind of invitation that comes with the land itself unspoken, but understood. You sit with them, the heat of the fire warming your skin against the coolness of the night. A man, likely the children's father, sits nearby, his face weathered by the sun, his eyes tired but content. He doesn't speak, but there's a sense of peace around him, an acceptance of the rhythm of the desert that you can't help but feel in your own bones now. The fire crackles, the wood hissing and snapping as it burns. The children sit around it, their laughter fading as they begin to settle. There's no conversation, just the quiet sound of the flames, the hum of the wind, and the deep, steady beat of the night. The stars are brilliant above, as if they've been waiting for you to notice them. You sit for what feels like an eternity, but in a way, it's timeless. The desert doesn't need to explain itself. It just is. And in this stillness, you realize you're no longer an outsider to this place. You've become part of it, like the fire, the stones, the wind. You're not just passing through anymore. You've been absorbed into the rhythm of the desert. The Bedouin children settle down near the fire, curled up in blankets, their small faces peaceful in the glow of the flames. The man watches over them, his presence steady and calm. You feel a sense of belonging here, even if just for this fleeting moment. The desert accepts everyone, whether they come for commerce, for pilgrimage, or for the simple desire to feel the earth beneath their feet. And as the night stretches on, the quiet of the desert seeps deeper into you. There's no urgency here. No need to rush. The world will wake in the morning. The market will stir to life again, and the rhythm of Petra will continue timeless, steady, and ever-present. For now, though, you are content to sit with the fire, the wind, and the stars. And you know somehow that this place will always be here, waiting for those who are ready to hear its stories. The night deepens, the fire crackling softly as you sit by the Bedouin camp, the world outside this small circle of warmth fading into shadow. The stars above are so clear, so sharp, they feel close enough to touch. The desert air carries the scent of earth and sage. And in this quiet, it's easy to imagine that the entire world has stopped turning. Just for a moment. You lie back against the cool, smooth stone beneath you, feeling the rough texture against your skin. The firelight flickers and dances, casting fleeting shadows across the faces of the children now fast asleep. The man, still sitting near the fire, looks up at the sky as if contemplating the vastness of it all. There's no hurry in his gaze. No urgency to the way he exists here. It's as though time itself is something distant and irrelevant, a fleeting illusion, and in a way, it is. The desert doesn't recognize time the same way other places do. It moves according to the rhythms of the earth, of the sun and moon, of wind and dust. The market, the bustling trade of the day, the people who came and went, all of it feels like a distant echo, like something that happened long ago, even though it was only hours earlier. Time in Petra is circular, endless, stretching from the past into the present, and then quietly folding into itself again, like the wind that sweeps across the desert without ever truly stopping. You think about the market, the way the day unfolded, how quickly it passed, how alive it felt. Yet now, in the stillness of the night, it seems almost insignificant, like a brief flicker of light in the grand tapestry of history. This place, Petra, has existed for millennia. The markets, the traders, the deals, they're just small ripples in a vast ocean that has been here long before you arrived and will remain long after you leave. The man beside the fire shifts slightly, his eyes still fixed on the stars above. He doesn't speak, but there's a quiet wisdom in his gaze, as though he's seen it all before, the coming and going of travelers, the ebb and flow of the markets, the cycles of life and death. His life, like so many others, is woven into the fabric of this place. He is part of Petra, just as Petra is part of him. You let your mind wander, the quiet settling around you like a comfortable blanket. The weight of the desert night is gentle, but unmistakable. It presses down on you, not as a burden, but as a reminder of your place in the world, of how small you are, and yet how connected to everything around you. It's humbling, really, to realize how insignificant you are in the grand scheme of things, and yet how deeply you feel the pulse of life here. The desert, the city, the people, it all flows together. One continuous current of history and experience. The fire crackles again, and the warmth from the flames seeps into your skin, chasing away the last traces of the cool night air. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the wind, to the soft rustling of the sand in the distance, to the faint sound of a camel's distant call. The world is full of small noises, unnoticed by most, but in this quiet desert, they are amplified. Every sound feels significant. Every movement carries weight. In the stillness, you feel a tear connection to this place. It's not just about the market, the barter, or the goods exchanged. It's the people, the stories, the way everything is bound together by a rhythm older than the city itself. You are part of that rhythm now, even if you've only been here a short time. The fire is dying down, the embers glowing softly in the night. The stars above seem even brighter now, their light casting a soft glow across the desert landscape. You shift, stretching your legs out, the sand cool against your skin. For the first time, you feel the weight of the day lifting, the exhaustion of travel, of the market, of everything else. It's all fading into the night, leaving only the quiet of the desert behind. The man beside the fire stirs, and for the first time, he speaks. His voice is low, almost a whisper, as if he's sharing a secret with the night itself. "You'll leave, one day," he says, his eyes never leaving the stars. "But this place, it stays. It always stays." You don't respond. There's no need. His words hang in the air, settling over you like the desert wind. You don't know when or how, but you understand. Petra isn't just a place. It's a memory, a feeling, a rhythm that echoes through time. It's something that stays with you, even after you leave. The desert, the market, the people, they become part of you. As the fire flickers out, the man gets to his feet, his movements slow but steady. He stretches, then glances over at you, as if to see if you're ready to go. The night is deep now, the stars endless above, and for a moment, you don't feel like a visitor. You feel like you belong here, like the city and the desert have taken you in, made you a part of their endless story. The man nods once, as though sensing your thoughts. Without another word, he turns and begins walking toward the tents. The children remain asleep, wrapped in blankets beneath the night sky. The wind picks up slightly, carrying the faint scent of sage and dust, and the world settles back into its quiet rhythm. You rise slowly, taking one last look at the desert before following him. The night stretches ahead, but for the first time, there's no urgency, no rush to leave, no need to do anything but follow the path that lies ahead. Petra will be here tomorrow, the market will rise again, and the rhythm of life will continue. And for a moment, you understand that you're part of it, just one small thread in the vast, timeless tapestry of this ancient place. The stillness of the desert night embraces you as you walk. The soft shuffle of your footsteps barely audible over the hum of the wind. The Bedouin camp fades behind you, the flickering firelight, now just a memory. The night is so calm that it almost feels unreal, as if you've stepped out of time altogether and into a place where days don't really matter. The stars are brighter than you've ever seen them. They're cold, distant light casting everything in a soft, silvery glow. The path ahead is faint, marked only by a few stone cairns here and there, guiding the way through the rugged terrain. It's easy to forget that you're still in the middle of a bustling city, a place where the past and present collide. But in this moment, the city feels far away. The soft rustle of the wind, the occasional cry of a nocturnal bird, and the rustling of sand in the distance. Those are the only sounds that matter now. The market, the traders, the day's flurry of activity, of that feels like it happened in another lifetime, somewhere far away. You walk on, guided only by the stars above, and the silent rhythm of the desert. The air is cool, and the ground beneath your feet shifts from soft sand to hard stone. Each step is deliberate, yet slow, almost like you're reluctant to break the spell that the desert has cast over you. After a while, you reach the outskirts of Petra, where the rocky cliffs rise steeply above you. Here, the path begins to widen, and you see the first of the ancient tombs carved into the stone. The faces of long-dead kings and queens peer down at you, their eyes hollow, their expressions frozen in time. There's something almost haunting about their presence, yet you can't help but feel a certain reverence. These tombs, these places of rest, have witnessed centuries of life and death, of trade and conquest, of civilizations rising and falling, and yet they remain. You stop for a moment, your breath steady as you take in the sight. The tombs, the carvings, the sheer scale of this place, it's awe-inspiring. And in the quiet of the night, you almost feel as though the ghosts of the past are watching over you. The air is thick with history, and it's hard not to feel the weight of it pressing in, urging you to reflect on your place in this vast, unbroken chain of time. As you continue walking, the tombs give way to more familiar structures, homes carved into the rock, their doors and windows weathered by the passage of time. It's easy to imagine what life must have been like here centuries ago. You picture the people of Petra, coming and going, trading goods, living their lives, and experiencing all the joys and struggles of their time. It wasn't just a market that made this place special. It was the people, the stories, the connections that were made here in the shadow of these great stone monuments. A soft breeze brushes your face, pulling you back from your thoughts. You glance up at the cliffs again, noticing the way the light falls on the jagged rocks, casting long shadows that seem to stretch endlessly into the night. There's a surreal quality to it, a sense that time has slowed here, as if the desert itself has somehow paused, waiting for you to catch up. Further ahead, the path begins to wind down toward the valley, where you can hear the faint sound of running water. You've heard the stories. The ancient Nabataeans were masters of water management, using complex systems of aqueducts and cisterns to bring water to this otherwise arid land. You've seen the remnants of those systems during the day, but at night, they take on a different kind of mystery. The sound of water, trickling softly in the distance, fills the air, and you realize just how much life has flourished here, against all odds. You reach the edge of the valley, where a small spring bubbles up from the ground. The water is cool and clear, reflecting the moonlight in 1,000 shimmering points. You kneel down, cupping your hands to drink. The water is refreshing, a welcome reprieve from the heat of the day. As you drink, you feel connected to this place in a way you hadn't before, sense of belonging. Even if it's just for this moment. The land, the water, the air, it's all part of a greater whole, one that has existed long before you arrived, and will continue long after you've gone. You sit for a while beside the spring, the sound of water and wind mixing in the quiet of the night. The stars overhead seem to shimmer more brightly now, their light casting an ethereal glow over the desert. It feels like a dream, This moment so quiet, so still, as if the world itself has paused to breathe. The thoughts come and go, but they don't feel urgent anymore. There's no rush to go anywhere, no need to do anything. Time has a way of bending here, of slowing down, of making you realize that perhaps the most important moments are the ones that happen when you're not trying to make them happen at all. The market, the tombs, the traders, all of those things are just fleeting shadows in the grand scheme of things. But this moment, this stillness, this connection to the land, it's something you'll carry with you long after you leave. The wind picks up again, and you rise, stretching your legs and walking slowly toward the path that leads back toward the heart of Petra. The journey, it seems, is never really over. It continues, even when the market has closed, even when the day has ended. The city, the desert, and everything in it, they keep moving, keep living, even when you're not there to see it. And as you walk back, the night wrapping its cool arms around you, you know that Petra will always be here. It will always be a part of you, as much as the stars in the sky, as much as the wind in the desert. You follow the winding path back toward the heart of Petra. The faint sounds of the market long gone now, replaced entirely by the hush of wind echoing through the sandstone corridors. The silence isn't empty though. It hums softly, like a memory not quite finished, a conversation left mid-sentence. It's the kind of quiet that has weight so still that even your own breath feels like an interruption. As you walk, your thoughts drift back to the morning, to the jostling crowds, the scent of cumin and fig, the sound of bronze coins clinking against wooden counters. It's hard to believe all of that was only hours ago. Petra has a way of bending time, of making each part of the day feel like its own world. Morning belonged to noise and trade and color. Now the night belongs to shadows, to reflection, and to the strange comfort of not needing to be anywhere else. You come across a low stone bench, nestled in a curve of the canyon wall. Someone long ago, or perhaps just earlier today's, a piece of carved limestone there. It's smooth, almost polished by centuries of contact, like a place people have been resting without fanfare for generations. You sit down, let your hands trail across the stone. There's something reassuring in the way the rock holds the day's warmth, slowly releasing it into the night air. Petra doesn't forget heat or history. It just holds it a little while longer than most places. Above you, the cliffs loom, their surfaces etched with Nabataean inscriptions and symbols, some deciphered, some still a mystery. Scholars still argue over the meanings of certain motifs. Were they religious, functional, just decorative flair? No one knows for sure. But staring at them in the moonlight, you start to think maybe it doesn't matter. They exist. They were carved by hands long gone, left behind not for you, not even for the next generation, but maybe just because creating something permanent was a kind of prayer. A breeze stirs again, and with it comes the scent of something unexpected: bitter almonds, maybe, or crushed laurel leaves. You glance around, but there's no one nearby, just the wind, the dust, the moon, and you. Still, you're reminded of the vendors with their scented oils earlier in the day. The perfumed satchels dangling beside spices and goat cheese. You wonder if the scent has clung to your robes, followed you here, like a sensory memory that refuses to be shaken loose. A soft sound breaks the silence. Not threatening, not loud, just the tinkling of small bells. You look up. There, in the distance, a lone camel and its handler pass through the canyon mouth. The camel plods slowly, its head nodding rhythmically, as if lulled by the hush of night. The man, cloaked and silent, doesn't acknowledge you. He doesn't need to. His presence is a quiet confirmation that the world keeps moving, even in stillness. You don't need a greeting. You're both just part of the same quiet moment. You rise again and continue walking, this time taking a side path carved along the cliffs, less direct, but more scenic. Petra reveals more of herself this way. A half-collapsed archway here, a weathered column there. You reach a small alcove, just off the main path, where remnants of pottery lie scattered in the sand. Shards of painted clay, blue, red, faint gold, still clinging to the edges. Someone dropped them, or lost them, or left them as part of some ritual no one wrote down. Whatever the story was, it's long gone now. You crouch and run your fingers along one of the broken pieces. It's smooth and curved, part of what was once a handle, maybe a jug, maybe something more decorative. Whatever its purpose, it once held something. You leave it where you found it. That's how things are in Petra, you observe. You don't possess. The city isn't something you take with you. It's something you carry inside instead. You reach a small clearing where several paths meet. Just beyond it lies the entrance to a tomb, low and rectangular, with a lintel carved in a geometric Nabataean design. It's not one of the grand ones tourists gather around. No lion sculptures or monumental stairs. But something about its simplicity feels honest. The kind of tomb carved not for fame, but for someone who simply lived here, who bartered for lentils, who shared a flatbread with a neighbor, who sat under the stars, much like you are now. And here's something funny: despite how tired you are, how far you've walked today, you're in no hurry to leave. There's nothing to rush back to. And the quiet of the canyon feels like it's holding you gently, asking you to linger a little longer. You sit again, this time on the cool step of the tomb. The night is deeper now. The air is cooler, crisper. The desert, for all its dryness, somehow feels soft at night. The sky overhead is wide and open, and for once, you're not thinking about anything in particular. Not about the traders, not about the market stalls, not even about how you'll describe this place when you leave. You're just here, a small human sitting under an impossibly large sky, in a city that carved itself from the cliffs and dared to last. Eventually, you rest your head against the stone and close your eyes, not to sleep, not quite, just to listen. The silence here is never total. There's always something. The wind grazing past sandstone, the far-off shuffle of hooves, the occasional creak of wooden scaffolding settling deeper into the canyon. But all of it is soft. All of it is slow. You take a deep breath. The stone beneath you, the air around you, the scent of memory, everything tells you the same thing. You're not the first to pass through here, and you won't be the last. And somehow, that feels comforting. In a world so full of noise, Petra offers stillness. The market is gone for now, tucked away in the folds of night. But its rhythm, its heartbeat never really stops. You remain still for a long time, your back against the cool stone of the tomb, the air around you hushed like a library at midnight. The kind of silence that doesn't expect anything from you. Petra has quieted, not in abandonment, but in deep sleep. There's no pressure to move, no reason to stir. And your body begins to feel as though it's made of the same material as the rock worn. Weathered, at peace. Eventually, your legs need stretching, and you rise slowly, careful not to disturb the feeling that's settled into your bones. The pathway before you narrows into one of Petra's lesser-known six, a corridor of high cliffs, carved naturally by wind and time. You slip into its shadow without a second thought. It's narrow and winding, the moonlight filtering in as thin slashes overhead. Every footstep sounds louder here, and the echo makes it feel like something is walking just behind you. You check. Of course, there's no one. This sick isn't on any tour map, at least not one anyone gives out. But travelers talk. One merchant earlier in the day had muttered something about a hidden path the locals call the Whispering Way. Not because people talk here, but because the walls do. You hadn't thought much of it at the time. But now, under the stars, with the market closed and nothing but time in your pocket, the name seems right. The walls on either side rise high and uneven. Nabataean masons might have touched this path once, maybe not. It's hard to tell where human hands stop and nature begins in Petra, and in the quiet, the rock does seem to murmur not in words, but in impressions, the way a draft rushes past your cheek and then abruptly halts, the strange way echoes bounce back, not quite in sync with your own steps. You imagine voices lost in time, conversations caught in the grain of stone, replaying themselves over and over to no one. One low ledge appears to have been deliberately carved into the wall, wide enough for someone to sit or kneel, maybe. Above it, you spot faint indentations, almost like script, though the markings are so eroded they could just be the randomness of erosion. Still, it makes you pause. What was this? A place for prayer? A checkpoint for guards? A lover's secret? Historians still argue whether these types of alcoves were functional or spiritual guard posts or shrines. No one agrees, and no one really needs to. You don't need answers right now. Just the walk. As you keep moving, the sick begins to open up slightly. You find yourself in a small clearing, a hidden bowl surrounded by walls on every side except the sliver of sky above. Here, someone long ago built a stone platform, nothing fancy, just a low square of bricks, arranged neatly and now mostly buried by sand. Some say these platforms were used for resting caravans. Others think they were impromptu stages for poetry or music. The Nabataeans loved poetry, though not all of it was high art. Some fragments found etched into rocks include complaints about camel prices and the quality of dates. The sky here seems impossibly wide, though you're still hemmed in by rock. Maybe it's the contrast. A sliver of sky seen through towering cliffs looks larger than an ocean. You lie down on the stone platform. It's not comfortable, but it's honest. It's cool to the touch, and you feel it pulling the warmth from your skin. Above you, the stars wheel lazily, and for the first time in hours, your thoughts go completely still. You feel Petra not just around you, but beneath you. This was a city of engineers and mystics, of merchants and caravan guides, of grifters and prophets. It wasn't just a marketplace. It was a breathing organism, built into the bones of the earth. The stones aren't silent, they hum, maybe. You imagined it earlier, but lying here now, you're sure there's something in the ground, a rhythm, faint but constant. like a distant heartbeat. You close your eyes. The rock supports you without judgment. The wind moves like a whisper across your arms. Somewhere, far off, a dog barks. And just like that, you're reminded. People live here still. Modern Petra sits beyond the ruins, where descendants of the old Nabataean clans still raise goats, still tell stories, still sell pouches of dried rose and crushed mint for a few diners at the gate. The market was their inheritance. The stones, their backdrop, and the quiet. That's the real currency of the desert. As you open your eyes, the sky is shifting. The deep indigo of midnight is giving way to something softer, something just this side of dawn. Not yet light, but no longer fully night. The stars begin to dull, like a candle being gently snuffed. You sit up slowly, the cold stone now more noticeable against your back. It's time to start moving again. Not because you have to, just because you feel the place asking you to. Petra never demands, it just waits. You brush sand from your legs and stand, stretching, feeling the quiet stiffness of your limbs. And then you begin walking, barefoot now, the stone warming beneath you with each step. And there it is again, that soft rhythm underfoot, the pulse of the city. The song of the stone. Not every traveler hears it, but tonight, you do. The whisper of dawn now curls gently around the sandstone cliffs, brushing the top edges of Petra's towering facades with the faintest stroke of gold. The air is still cool crisp. In your lungs, quiet in your ears, but there's a shift. Subtle, but certain. Night is retreating, and with it, the desert's dreamlike hush begins to lift. You step out of the narrow sick into an open space, wide and flat, hemmed in by walls that glow slowly warmer with each passing moment. The stone here drinks in the first light like a parched wanderer, and the colors muted in moonlight just minutes ago begin to bloom. Rose, ochre, copper, ivory. It's not just sunrise, it's alchemy. You pause, letting the moment settle over you. If the market was Petra's heart, and the tombs its memory, then this early morning transformation is its breath. The entire city seems to inhale, from your left, faint motion. A woman moves silently from behind a rock outcrop, her robe wrapped tight against the lingering night chill. She carries a woven basket, balanced with a quiet confidence that suggests this is her 100th morning walk through this space. She doesn't look surprised to see you. She doesn't say anything either. She simply walks, like time itself, with purpose and grace. And you follow, not out of curiosity exactly, but because something about her path feels inevitable. She leads you unintentionally or not back toward the market square. It's not bustling yet, not noisy or full of voices, but it's waking up. A few stalls have been uncovered, cloths pulled back, tables adjusted, stale coals dumped out from clay ovens. You hear the muted clink of ceramic pots being placed into position and the scratch of a broom brushing aside yesterday's footprints. It's not dramatic. There's no trumpet of life rushing in, but there is movement. It's like watching the tide come back in slow, purposeful, and completely natural. The market doesn't explode to life. It breathes back into existence, the same way the city always does. One slow heartbeat at a time. A man stretches behind his stall, cracking his back with a wince and a muttered blessing. Another perhaps his neighbor grins and hands him a tiny clay cup of thick, cardamom-heavy coffee. No gold exchanged, just routine, just kindness. The kind of ritual no museum plaque could ever explain. The kind of moment too small for history. Books, but infinitely larger in meaning. You wander through the quiet rebirth of the market. A woman folds linen tunics with half-lidded eyes, her hair still damp from washing. A boy fans the embers beneath the breakfast griddle, coaxing flames back to life. You catch the scent of early morning bread, flat and warm, slightly charred, likely filled with herbs or cheese, and for the first time in hours, you realize you're hungry. You stop at a stall not quite ready, but open enough. The vendor, a man with silver-streaked hair and a perpetual squint, nods toward a stack of rough flatbreads. He breaks one in half, no words exchanged, and hands it to you with the offhand familiarity of someone who does this every day. You nod back and sit on the edge of a nearby stone platform, chewing slowly. The bread is warm, coarse, and perfect. Around you, the market slowly fills, not just with goods, but with color, with scent, with voice. Someone starts laughing loud and sharp and honest. A woman sings under her breath as she arranges dried herbs in neat piles. A child chases a goat between stalls, shrieking with joy, while an exasperated man gives half-hearted chase. It's all so ordinary. And yet, that's what makes it extraordinary. You finish your bread as the sun crests the cliffs fully now, lighting the city in full. Petra is golden, not metaphorically, but literally. The rock glows. The stalls shimmer with new life. Shadows stretch and shorten. It's a spectacle more beautiful than anything a merchant could ever sell in. Not a single soul seems particularly impressed, because for them, this is just another Tuesday. You walk slowly, past the stall with dried apricots, past the man arranging globs of resin, past the woman plucking lint from a bolt of dyed linen. They nod, not because they recognize you all, though maybe they do, but because you're here. That's enough. You reach the far end of the market, where the road forks toward the distant gate. You can leave now, if you want. The path is open, the city behind you, awakening in full. But your feet hesitate. There's something in you now, something you didn't arrive with. The city hasn't just impressed you, it's folded you in. You've walked its alleys, shared in its silences, felt the hush of its sleeping stones, and watched it exhale with the rising sun. You've eaten its bread, shared a fire, rested where strangers once wept and traded and dreamed. And because of all that, you understand something essential. The market isn't a place. It's a rhythm, it's a breath, it's a heartbeat. And once you've felt it, it stays with you. You turn back for one last look. The stalls are alive again, the sound of coins and clay and camel hooves blending into a harmony only Petra knows how to sing. No one's calling out to you, and that's okay. You're not a visitor anymore. You're just someone who heard the rhythm and listened. You don't retrace your steps, there's no need. Petra is the kind of place that shapes the path for you, so you meander, your pace slower now, like your feet have begun syncing with the tempo of the city. Not the rushed pulse of midday haggling, but the gentler, older rhythm what Petra hums when it thinks no one is listening. The sunlight is higher now, angling past the cliff walls and illuminating parts of the architecture you hadn't noticed before. You pause near a small shrine, half hidden between two larger facades. A carved niche holds the fading image of Dushara, the high god of the Nabataeans, his rectangular form softened by centuries of wind. No elaborate robes, no outstretched arms, just a cube. Geometric and severe. Some historians think it symbolized purity or unshaped divinity. Others insist it was simply the easiest form to carve from stone. Even now, scholars still argue over the Nabataean pantheon. Was it monotheistic? Polytheistic? Secretly philosophical? Petra keeps her answers tucked deep inside, answering only with silence. A stray cat slinks past the altar and sits in the shade. It blinks at you like it owns the place, and honestly, it probably does. Cats, it seems, are immune to the grandeur of ruins. You give it a nod and move on. You take a different path now, veering toward the garden terraces above the old marketplace. You'd missed them in the chaos of the day. But now, the place is calmer, and the terraces are waking too. Stone planters still hold traces of old Nabataean ingenuity: troughs, irrigation channels, and basins carved straight into the cliff. The Nabataeans didn't just survive in the desert, they thrived in it. Their gardens weren't decoration, they were life. Fig trees, pomegranates, even vines. Imagine that: grapes in the desert. You sit on one of the terrace walls, your back against the warm stone. From here, the entire market stretches out below, buzzing with life again. But it doesn't feel chaotic now. It feels ... harmonious, balanced. The voices blend, the colors mingle, and the smells spices. Roasting nuts, baked bread rise gently in the air. A merchant below is demonstrating some sort of trick with a water skin. A cluster of children cheer him on. You can't hear what he's saying, but you know the punchline lands when half the square erupts in laughter. A simple joke, probably. One he tells every morning. And it still works. There's a kind of wisdom in that. The sun creeps higher. The colors of the cliffs shift again: rosy beige, turning a creamy amber, then something closer to ivory. The sandstone breathes with the day. And as it does, you begin to sense the rhythm turning again, subtly, gently. What was dawn's stillness has now given way to mid-morning hum. The beat has picked up, the tempo now something in the realm of busy, though still far from frantic. You descend the terrace slowly, passing a boy who is setting out bowls of salt and ash at the foot of a pillar. Offerings maybe, or just custom. He looks up at you briefly, then returns to his task. No explanation given, and none needed. There are layers here, traditions folded over each other like the stone strata of the cliffs themselves. You stop at a stall that wasn't there yesterday, or perhaps you just missed it. It's low, its canopy made from stitched goat hide, and the woman inside doesn't sell food or cloth or trinkets. She sells nothing at all, actually. She's sitting cross-legged on a mat with a small clay bowl of oil between them and a row of smooth, round stones laid out in front. She doesn't speak. She gestures to one of the stones. You hesitate, then sit, because why not? She places a stone in your palm. It's warm from the sun and smooth as water. You turn it slowly between your fingers. There are no markings on it. It doesn't smell like anything. It's not magic. It's just ... calming. She smiles, not kindly, not coldly, just neutrally, like someone who knows the difference between a question and an answer. You hand the stone back, She dips her fingers into the oil and draws a small circle on the back of your hand. That's it. You stand, nod, and leave. You don't ask what it meant. Because you already know. Or maybe you will, in a few years. Petra has no interest in rushing your comprehension. Back on the main path now. The sun nearing its zenith. The crowd has thickened. Vendors are in full rhythm, some hawking louder than others, some ignoring the noise completely, letting their wares speak for them. A caravan unloads in the corner, camels groaning as crates of spices and cloth are stacked high. The voices swirl together, 1,000 conversations overlapping but not colliding, and somehow, despite all of it, you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel ... whole. And that's when it hits you. It wasn't the stones, it wasn't the tombs. It wasn't even the marketplace. It was the rhythm. The way Petra moves, the way it waits. The way it never hurries, never explains, never demands you to understand her all at once. She just exists quietly, grandly, patiently until you're ready to feel it all. And today, you did. So now the rhythm slows again. The chatter of the market begins to fade, not because it's ending, but because you're stepping back further and further into the calm. Let it blur. Let the colors melt together like soft lights through silk. Let the scents of saffron, warm stone, and fresh bread become one gentle cloud around you. The city continues without you, always has, always will. Traders will close their stalls at dusk. Children will chase each other through dusty alleys. And long after the tourists and camels are gone, Petra will still sit quietly, carved into the mountain, breathing through centuries. Your body is heavy now, your breath slow. The stone beneath you has softened somehow, molded to your shape, welcoming. Maybe you're still sitting near that hidden shrine, or lying on the terrace wall above the market. Or maybe you've already drifted to some dream version of this place, where the colors are even softer, the air even warmer, and the silence even deeper. Let your thoughts ripple, then still. Let your limbs loosen, then float. Let your breathing match the rhythm of that ancient city, slow, patient, ageless. Petra will be here when you wake. You don't need to hold on to anything. Just drift. Just rest. The desert wind carries no urgency. Only calm. The stones remember for you. You don't have to sleep. Now sleep like the city sleeps in layers. In time, in peace. End of script. Sweet dreams.